Hi, everyone, and welcome to Unlocking Your Superstar Strength. I am your facilitator, Dr. Adriana Popescu. I am a psychologist, an addiction and trauma specialist, and an empowerment coach based out of San Francisco, California, where we are having quite an interesting time of things here between COVID and fires and a heat wave, which luckily today has gotten a little bit easier. It's been a crazy time. So I'm glad you guys are here today. I decided to do this call in honor of World Suicide Prevention Week. The official day, I believe, is on Thursday. But this was when I had free time, so I decided to do my call today. And really what I wanted to approach it from the perspective, kind of what Cindy was alluding to earlier when we were chatting before we started, which is it's really easy to focus on all of the negative stuff that's happening in the world. And if you do that, it's likely to bog you down and maybe even put you in a place where you're feeling hopeless and like, what's the point of it all? So I'd like to actually approach this topic from the strength side of it. Like, what if actually you're an infinite being who has an infinite amount of power and potency available to you, that if you would tap into it, would allow you to have greater ease with all of these massive changes that are happening on the earth right now. So one of the ways that I have found as a lifelong seeker and student of various treatment modalities, I have found a lot of potency in using the tools of access consciousness, which I'll mainly be focusing on today. But I also, I'm going to go ahead and actually mute everyone just so we can have a clean recording. Okay. The access tools are really wonderful, and I'm going to talk primarily about those, but I will also give a plug for energy psychology tools. I gave a talk about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, with Junaline, who's another access facilitator from Lebanon, and she had asked me to come on her Facebook Live talking about, the explosion that had happened there and all the trauma that's really going on in the world. And I actually, with her, was talking about another tool that I find really powerful for dealing with trauma, which is EFT, emotional freedom techniques. It's considered an energy psychology approach. And I can give you guys links if you're curious about it in the replay email. But we were doing tapping, and I find tapping to be actually really helpful when you are in a fight, flight, freeze response, when your nervous system is super jacked up and you can't think straight and you can't even think to use like a who does it belong to or anything like that. Sometimes what I end up doing with my clients is doing some tapping on acupuncture points, because it actually sends a signal to the brain to induce a relaxation response. And so all your stress hormones come down. And then I'll often use access tools once people are in a calmer state. So just a little plug for that. I do find that tool is particularly helpful, but I do want to primarily talk about the access consciousness tools. And I have a feeling that most of you are already pretty familiar with them, but I will just say a little bit for those of you that might be new to access. Access consciousness has been around for about 30 or so years. It is a combination of hands-on energy work and verbal facilitation. And we use in access something called a clearing statement, which sounds like hocus pocus, because it's an abbreviation. Like the whole clearing statement stands for a bunch of different acronyms that if you wrote them all out would be at least 2 or 3 pages. If you want to find out more about the clearing statement, I'm not going to go into what it all is, but there's a great website called theclearingstatement.com where you can go and watch a video of Dr. Dane here, who's the co-creator of Access, talking about what every little part of that clearing statement means. So I am going to use the clearing statement on this call because when certain energies come up, the clearing statement allows us to clear those energies and shift them all the way back to the point of creation when they first took hold, right? So what do I want to say about Access? I think some of the tools that I have found the most helpful in terms of unlocking your strength is to ask a question. You cannot underestimate the power of a question, right? In Access, we talk about how a question empowers, whereas an answer or a conclusion disempowers. So why is that? Well, because when we are asking a question like, what else is possible, right? Right now, the world seems like it's falling apart. What else is possible? When we ask that question, it is an invitation. It is an opening. We are asking for something different to show up, right? And the whole ask and receive is a real thing that actually works. When you ask a question, you literally activate quantum, molecules and things. We call them the quantum entanglements. If you're curious, do some Googling on quantum physics. Quantum entanglements, which basically, when you get down to this level with physics, you realize there is no separation between anything. We are really all are oneness. So when you're asking a question and activating those quantum entanglements, something else is happening over here and the universe is responding to your question, right? When you come to an answer, when you come to a conclusion or a fixed point of view about something, then it stops the flow of the energy and nothing else becomes possible. I often give the example with clients that if I'm asking a question like, how else can I create more money? And I come to the conclusion that, well, the only way I'm going to get more money is if I get a second or third job, then I basically created tunnel vision where that becomes the only possibility. And I cannot, the universe cannot bring me money any other way because I've decided this is how it has to be. Okay. So when we're talking about, the idea of suicide or depression or hopelessness, or I don't know if I want to be here anymore because the world is such a messed up place, how many fixed conclusions have you come to about the world, about your life, about pain and suffering? And are those fixed points of view, those conclusions you come to, actually creating a miserable reality, right? So the other tool that's so key in Access is your point of view creates your reality. If I believe the world is a terrible place, that's what I'm going to attract. That's the lens through which I'm going to see it. And then everything becomes pain and suffering, right? So when I work with people who are depressed, suicidal, that's what I see, is that they have a fixed point of view about the world, about their life, and they can't see anything else past it. That's why we often talk about it as if it's a black hole. It's got this almost gravitational pull that's heavy and dark and everything looks bleak. So all of the fixed points of view any of you have ever had, and let's also, Gary did this on a call recently and I thought it was really cool. Let's also have you all connect with the 350,000 other people that you're connected to in this lifetime and other lifetimes, because as we do the clearing for you, it will also clear for them. So if we want to create a change on this planet, let's POC and pod, as we say, using the clearing statement, it for everybody, okay? So everywhere you guys have ever had a point of view a fixed point of view that life sucks, it's pain and misery, and there's no way out of it, will you please destroy and uncreate that? Right, wrong, good, bad, POC, online, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And what else is possible? What's beyond? I love that question. What's beyond this? What's beyond the pain and suffering? What's right about this? You can look around at the world today and say, my God, it's a total shit show. But what's right about it all that we might not be getting, right? Here in America, where we have a horrific president and we have protests and violence and fires and smoke and COVID and all of this stuff going on, it's very easy to say, my God, you know, the world is coming to an end. But what's right about all this that we might not be getting? And if you look at your own life and whatever's going on, and maybe you are struggling right now, maybe you are having real challenges, what's right about it that I'm not getting? Now, you may not get an answer to that. You know, you may not even get anything in words, but you might get an awareness of an energy. What's right about this I'm not getting? Is there a lightness to that energy, right? And so then you could ask more questions like, okay, universe, show me. Like, you know, what is beyond all of this struggle? What else is possible here that I haven't even considered before? Right? You start asking questions as a way to open up that door to a different possibility. And then anytime you notice yourself coming to conclusions, especially the kinds of conclusions that are a judgment, like this sucks, there's no way out from it, you want to destroy and uncreate that energy, okay? Right, wrong, good, bad, POC, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. I apologize, the smoke is actually getting to me. So my throat is a little scratchy. Do you guys have questions about any of that? The questions, the clearing statement, anything I've said so far, having a fixed point of view, your point of view is what creates your reality. Okay, you can feel free to, if you do have a question, to type it in the chat box, or you can unmute yourselves as well. All right. The other thing I wanted to talk about is choice. This is really important. What I have seen when I have worked with people that are really depressed, people who are suicidal, they are functioning from a no choice universe. They feel as though, and notice I said the word feel, they feel as though they have no choice, that they are powerless, that oftentimes they have this victim kind of mentality where bad things always happen to me. I can't see a way out from this. Maybe they even have a point of view that I deserve it. You know, I'm a bad person. Maybe I'm having to pay for bad things that I've done. This is some sort of karma. And they're functioning as if they have no choice in the matter. And there is no choice but pain and suffering. So for any of you, if you've ever had those moments when you have felt like you have no choice, will you please destroy and uncreate that? Right, wrong, good, bad, POC, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. I'm here to say you always have a choice. In any given moment, there is always a choice available, okay? Now, you want to get clear on what you can and can't control. You may not be able to control all of those external events. Okay, you may not be able to control the fires, the COVID, the bad leadership, whatever it is, but you have a choice in how you respond to it, right? You have a choice as to whether you give those things power over you. You have a choice in whether or not you take on the pain and suffering of others, which is another topic I definitely want to address, because I know many of you are highly sensitive people, very aware people, and I guarantee you that a lot of the pain and suffering that you think is yours is actually not yours and is what you're picking up from people around you. That's a really important thing I want to address, is who does this belong to? But I will come back to that. Choice, right? You always have a choice in how much power you give someone or something. So if I sit there and I watch the news and I allow myself to get caught up in all of that negative energy, all of the frustration, the anger, the fear, right? A lot of people feed off fear, right? Then it can feel like I have no choice. Then I put myself in that same boat of everyone else who's feeling miserable and hopeless about things. So anywhere you guys have made that choice to function from a no choice universe, will you destroy and uncreate that?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good, bad, POC, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds, right? What other choice is available? Back to the question, what other choice do I have here? What other choice is available? What other choices available that I haven't even considered before? Because sometimes in your mind, it can be like a little box, and your mind only knows what's inside the box. So sometimes you have to ask a question about what's beyond this box. What other choices do I have that I have not even considered before? Okay. What else is possible? What can I change here, right? Those of you that have done some access, that there are things that we can do to change energies. And the way I had you guys, for example, connecting with 350,000 other people, that means that when you're creating a change in your own world, because you're vibrationally connected with all these other people, it's affecting them also. And those of you who've done work on yourselves with whatever tool, access or not, you've probably also noticed that when you change yourself, the people around you tend to change as well, right? So what can I change here? What choice do I have here that would create more for me and for everybody else, right? In Access, we've been doing some things with fracking, and we might do some 1, 2, 3s. And we know that when we're putting that energy out there, it creates change, right? So you always have a choice. What are you choosing? Everywhere you are choosing to validate, to align and agree with all of the pain and suffering that is in the world, will you destroy and uncreate that? Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. What else could you choose? Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. What if you would step into what Kelly wrote in the chat box, more joy, ease, and fun? Or what Sanjini wrote, less anxiety. What if you chose that? What would it take? That's one of my favorites when we ask a question. What would it take to have less anxiety? What would it take to have more joy, ease, and fun? When you ask that question, you're inviting, through ask and receive, you're inviting a different possibility to show up, right? And then if you want to pock and pot it, which you can add on to the question is, what would it take to have more joy, ease, and fun? Everything that doesn't allow that, even if I don't consciously know what it is or cognitively know what it is, everything that doesn't allow that, destroy and uncreate it. Right, wrong, good, bad, pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. Yes, Natalia is asking a question. So it is exactly, yes, I got your number. The question is, when you are deep in depression, how to remember the tools? What can be the first remedy? Yeah, this is a challenge that many of my clients are dealing with, whatever tools, whether it's Access or other tools that we're using. I find that when they're in session with me and we're using the tools, they work, it creates change, people feel better, but then they go and they live their life and they forget. They forget to use the tools. I'm a big fan of reminders, like put it on your phone, put your phone, some of you know the Who Does It Belong To app. You can get that for free from the App Store. It will prompt you to ask the question, who does this belong to, 1,000,000 times a day. Maybe you need a reminder like that. Maybe you need to program the reminders in your phone with questions, like randomly throughout the day or at certain times of the day. What else is possible? What other choices do I have available right now? Or if you're old-fashioned, you write it on a Post-it note and you put it in different places in your house. Put it on your nightstand, put it in your bathroom on the mirror, put it in your car on the steering wheel. Yes? Remember that you have these tools. Maybe you want to keep a list, for the clients I work with at the drug and alcohol rehab where I work, we have them write down their coping skills on a card, on an index card, and they carry that index card around with them. And so the only thing they need to remember is in case of emergency, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, if I'm feeling bad, whatever it is, I go to my card and my card has all the tools on there. So even with Access, you could put your top 3 tools. Maybe it's going to be, who does it belong to? Pock and pot it, which is the abbreviation for the clearing statement, pock and pot it, and maybe expand out, which is another one of my favorites that I want to talk about today. You can keep them somewhere and just go to that place, whether it's on your phone or a notebook or wherever it is, and just start using different tools, because you need to have a lot of tools in your tool bag. one tool isn't always going to be the magic one that fixes everything. Sometimes potting doesn't seem to change something. So you need to ask a different question. What other tool could I use here? What other question could I ask? When you don't know what question to ask, what question could I ask that would change this? I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling down. What could I do to change this? Okay. That's what I would suggest for that. And then what ends up happening is the more you practice, like for me, I've been doing Access for about 10 years now, and energy psychology has been over 20 years. So I've trained my mind that pretty much the minute I'm aware of something yucky, I'm in question. What is this? What do I do with it? Can I change it? How do I change it? 4 very basic questions you can ask. Who does this belong to? Is this mine? Is this someone else's? I'm not sure. Let me send it back and see what happens. Okay? So that's the who does this belong to tool. All right? So let me talk a little bit about that, and then I'll take more questions. So what if the vast majority of everything you think and feel that you think is yours is not in fact yours, but is your awareness of other people's stuff? Because again, if we look at it from the quantum physics level, we're all connected, okay? Energy does not know boundaries, okay? Energy, we even have some fascinating things if you want to Google mirror neurons. It's a fascinating thing where if I smile, you have neurons firing in your body that want to smile, right? If I yawn, right, you will want to yawn. If I tell you about, I just ate a lemon and it makes me pucker, you will experience that same sensation, okay? So we're really not as separate as we think. So you are acutely aware of what other people are thinking and feeling all the time. It's as if you are a radio antenna and you're constantly picking up the signals from other people. How much of the time are you misidentifying that stuff is your stuff, right? So if you really want to start to unlock your superstar strength, start asking the question, who does this belong to? Particularly when it's that yucky, heavy, upsetting, pain and suffering kind of stuff. Who does this belong to? Is this stuff actually mine? And then you use light and heavy, right? Whatever's true for you is going to feel light and expansive. Whatever's not true for you is going to feel more heavy and contracted. That tool takes some practice, okay? I once did a whole call on what to do when your light and heavy aren't working, and I came up with like 10 things that you want to consider when you're learning this tool, because sometimes it can be difficult to get clarity around that. But here's what I say. Even if you can't get a clear light and heavy when you ask the question, go ahead and return to sender whatever's not yours, even if you're not sure about it. And then notice how it seems to you afterwards. Do you feel lighter? Do you have more ease? Then guess what? It wasn't your stuff, okay? It can get a little more complex with who does this belong to, because I also find that a lot of us have taken on a job of healing others of their pain and suffering, yeah? So if you have an agenda like that, and sometimes it's a secret agenda, sometimes you don't even know that you're doing it. But I know for me, I had a great facilitation from Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, one time around, I said, Gary, look, I know it's not my stuff. And I say, who does it belong to? And I'm sending it back, but it's still not changing. And he asked me, well, what's your job? And I said, well, I'm a therapist. And he's like, yeah, and what's a therapist's job? And it's like, well, to make people feel better. He's like, how much are you functioning from this point of view that it's my job to make people feel better, okay? And so I was doing that not only in my own personal life with my friends and loved ones, but with my clients. And even with people, I would walk down the street and I would notice my body doing something to try to heal someone else's body, right? So it's going to be hard to return to sender stuff that you maybe in some lifetime made a vow or an oath or a promise to take away people's suffering, right? So the clearing I would use for that is all of the oaths, vows, commitments, contracts, fealties and communalties, which are like blood oaths, any kind of binding and bonding agreement you have to heal others of their pain and suffering, which necessitates you taking it all on and you locking it into your universe, your body, will you all revoke, rescind, recant, renounce, denounce, destroy, and uncreate all of that? Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And will you send back everything you took on from everyone that you were trying to heal, this lifetime or any other? Anywhere you locked it in your body, send it all back. And then notice, does that seem lighter to you? I can tell a difference. I can tell there's a little bit of a difference in your all's world. What do you notice? So let me pause there because I've said a lot of things so far. How is this landing for you all? Do you all have questions? What's coming up? And you can, again, type in the chat box or you can unmute yourself. No questions?
I was just noticing before you were doing the return to sender, I was starting to feel tired, sleepy, and I started justifying that I didn't get a lot of good sleep because of the fires, you know. I was kind of like, you know, up every hour or so, checking outside, you know, checking my phone, checking, you know. And so I was getting sleepy. And then right now when you were doing the clear, like the clearing that you take on trying to heal people, and I do that all the time, I'm getting better and better, just like, okay.
Yeah.
But right now when we're returning to center, it's like I got lighter, I felt more awake. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so interesting.
Yeah, it is really difficult. This is the thing. Like, you as an infinite being have no problems. You function from a space of joy, bliss, ecstasy, gratitude. That is your reality. Okay. What happens is we come here to this crazy place. We take on a body. We basically mold ourselves. You know, Gary likes to say we bend, fold, staple, and mutilate ourselves to fit into this insane reality. This reality whose objective is judgment, which is all around, you know, polarity and what's right and wrong and good and bad, right? And we come here and we cut off our access to our infinite being, yes? And so when we get stuck in other people's universes, we lose contact with our own. So a lot of times when I'm doing the who does this belong to tool, I do a thing where I suggest to my clients that they disentangle the energies. So that might mean, okay, everywhere I'm in someone else's universe right now, like if you start watching or reading the news, it's very easy to get sucked into all of that. You sometimes have to literally imagine pulling your energy out of that person's universe, sending back whatever's theirs, right? Okay, if you got it glommed onto you, send it back. And then if you gave your power away, because many of us do that, then take it back, right? So I think of it as give them their stuff, take your stuff, disentangle it all, okay? So that helps a lot. So whose universe are you in? That's another question you could ask. Whose universe am I stuck in? And maybe I need to pull out of it, right? And pulling out of it can mean different things to different people. I am a big fan of doing, it's not really access, but, you know, just basic grounding techniques, right? Like put yourself in your body. Are you even in your body right now? Pull yourself back into your body. You know, even Dane will say sometimes, like, put your hands on your belly, put your hands on your face. Like, hello, I'm here. I have a body. This is my body, right? That can help. I like imagining, you know, we live in California and we have these amazing redwood trees. I sometimes will imagine I'm like a big, strong redwood tree and my roots go deep into the earth and no one and nothing can really knock me over. They can sway me around, but they can't knock me over. I find a lot of strength in that visualization, but it's whatever works for you. But anything that it involves your body and the five senses, right? What do I see when I look around the room? What can I smell? What are the sounds? I find that helps us get out of other people's universes and back into our own. So that's another useful tool in terms of grounding. But the thing about it is when it comes to this awareness stuff, you're not going to be able to shut off your awareness as much as you would like. And we've come up with some really crazy ways to cut off our awareness. I mean, I work with drug and alcohol addiction. Addictions of all kinds are a way to avoid awareness. And most of the time, what people are trying to avoid with that is their awareness of everybody else's trauma, drama, upset, thoughts, feelings, emotions. It is so overwhelming to some of my clients that they don't know what else to do but to drink, use drugs, use sex, whatever addictive process to try to escape that. But it doesn't work, you know? It's at best a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
And so another thing I wanted to also add to what you're saying is, because I get a lot of times when we feel pain, we have an awareness, something feels yucky, we want to return it to sender. It's an automatic. We don't want it. We don't want to feel it. We don't want to be aware of it. But doing work with you, some of the other work we've done, it's also, there's a part of receiving. So sometimes receiving whatever there is to receive, dropping your barriers and receiving lightens things up too. And that's something I've been practicing more and more, is just the receiving, and just being an allowance. And then it just lightens up also. So that's another one I wanted to just share.
Yeah, no, and thank you for that, Cindy. I did want to talk about allowance. It's interesting. Right before I came over here, I was at my chiropractor's office. Now I happen to have a chiropractor who does access, so it's very convenient. But I had this all weekend, I was having this very intense pain in my low back, which is not something I typically have. And I was doing lots of questions, I was using the tools, and I still couldn't seem to change it. So when I saw her today, she started asking me a bunch of questions, and she was asking me about receiving. Well, first she asked, what are you aware of? Because many times when we are having pain, and I think that this can be physical pain in the body as well as emotional or psychological type pain, what are you aware of? And what came up was what we've been talking about. I'm aware of all this insane pain and suffering in the world, right? And she goes, how much are you resisting that? How much are you resisting that awareness of how effed up things are? How much people are choosing? And where it ended up going was really around how much people choose their pain and suffering and how much some people love their pain and suffering. This is so difficult for me to understand, because as somebody who has capacities to shift and change energies, I know that we can change absolutely anything. And I also know in this day and age, at least here in America, if you want help for something, if you want assistance with changing something in your life, it is available out there at any price point. I mean, you could be homeless and want therapy and get therapy, right? But people don't choose it. People continue to choose their pain and suffering. And this has always baffled me on some level that people would choose that. And she was also asking me about when I have chosen those things, when I have chosen pain and suffering, and the judgments, we clear judgments around that. So let's do that here. Anywhere you all have made yourselves wrong for anything you have chosen, including pain and suffering, yours or someone else's, will you destroy and uncreate that? Right, wrong, good, bad, pot, pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So there was this resistance. I was not in allowance of other people choosing the insane things that they choose. And that resistance was showing up as this pain in my body, right? So since we did those clearings, it's now opened up, it's feeling looser. I can tell there's still something I need to work with, but I know I can keep asking questions about that. But resistance is going to contribute, like there's even a saying, whatever you resist persists. Yeah. So resistance is basically the other side of the polarity of aligning and agreeing, right? So if I am aware, so to follow this train of thought with who does it belong to, okay? If I am aware of other people's stuff, but I'm still aligning and agreeing with it, like saying, yeah, it is terrible. Oh my God, this person who's in charge of our government is horrible and he must go. If I like align and agree with all of that, I'm going to take it on. If I resist and react to it, like, I can't believe people are so stupid. What are they thinking? You know, what is going on? Either way, it's a judgment polarity, and I'm going to get stuck with that energy. So all the judgments you all have made in the spirit of aligning and agreeing or resisting and reacting to everything that's going on in the world right now, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right, wrong, good, bad, POC, online, shorts, boys, and beyonds. What would it take to have that allowance that Cindy is talking about? Allowance is the space of no judgment. Allowance is where you are receiving everything without a point of view. Yes, people are choosing trauma and drama. Yes, people are suffering. Yes, fires are raging all over the place. And what would it take for me to have allowance for it? Everything that doesn't allow that, you destroy and uncreate it. Right, wrong, good, bad, POC, online, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Allowance is really the key. Everyone, you know, in Access is often looking for like the one clearing to rule them all. But really what I think it comes down to is allowance. The more you can get to that space of no judgment, where everything is just an interesting point of view, where you can be with everything and not have to change it, not have to fix someone else's pain and suffering, that is true strength. That is your superstar strength, allowance. So questions about any of that? What is this bringing up for you all? Oh, you're still muted.
Well, what just came up for me is like, it's so funny because I'm all about allowance, but then there's the other side, like I can almost hear like, if I'm in allowance, am I just going to let, you know, the earth destroy itself with fires? I'm just going to let people be stupid around me. I'm going to let people be rude to me. No, you know, there's not that. So there's still this other side that there's action also to take. And that's where I get stuck. Like what, like, and I guess it could be in question, but like what action? Okay, yes, there's allowance. And then there's, okay, what actions do I take now to change things, I guess?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because Gary talks about how allowance is not being a doormat, right? You want to always be, even if you're taking action, you want to do it without an expectation or an attachment to a certain outcome, right? So let's talk, you know, with the political situation going on right here, right? Does this, you could ask a question like, does this current administration, you know, the presidency work for me? No, it doesn't. Okay, well, what other choices do I have? What else is possible here? Do I need to go out and vote? Do I need to do some campaigning and get some information out in the world? Is there something I could frack? Is there something I can clear in me? Maybe anytime I've contributed, you know, maybe in some lifetime you've been that leader who's been, you know, more of a not having the interest of others in mind and being more a kingdom of me kind of leader. All the lifetimes when you've been that pock and potted, right? So you can take action, but you want to make sure that you don't have an agenda or an attachment to the outcome. Like, yes, I would like Gary, when he asked for, you know, the contributions to Joe Biden, he's also doing that without an attachment to the outcome, right? If Trump's going to get reelected, Gary will have allowance of it and he will create his life accordingly, right? I've also heard Gary talking about looking for other countries to live in. So he might make that choice. I think where people get stuck is when they're like, I must take action, and if it doesn't work out the way I want it to, then it's going to put them in a state of judgment. And the person they're most likely to judge is themselves. I didn't do enough to change this. I'm not powerful enough. And then they're going to be right back in that hopeless, depressed, what's the point of it all? Why don't I just end it, right? So that's the slippery slope, I think, with that, is when we get caught into expectations. In Access, we call them projections and expectations, and they lead to judgments, and then those judgments create separation and rejection, right? So if you're going to take action, you may want to pock and pod all of the projections, expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections you have around how you want it to turn out so that you can have true allowance. Yeah. Okay. So lots of stuff. Not so much an intro call. It feels like we actually have covered a lot of different territory with this. Do you know where allowance is really hard? Is when you have a loved one who you see. That's when I find that it can be the most difficult, is when you have a loved one who you see is suffering, and you know, because you have tools, you know that it could be different for them, you know it could change, and yet they're not actually willing to have it, or they're not willing to receive it. That I have found to be a really challenging situation. And then, I have to just keep working on allowance. I just keep having to have more and more allowance for myself, and the fact that they're choosing what they're choosing, and to really surrender my attachment to what they choose. And that can be difficult, but what I love about these tools, it allows me to unlock that power to change it, even if they're not choosing it. I can still choose how I respond to them, right? And I let go a long time ago. It's easier in my practice because I don't have so much of, that personal attachment to my clients. But a long time ago, I had to let go of any expectations that what we were doing in the therapy or coaching was going to result in them changing. I'm not the one who controls that. They control that. They choose whether or not they want to take the tools I'm offering and use them. And so I surrendered that attachment for the most part, and so I don't get as impacted, because I used to take on a lot of the stuff I would leave with it. I would take on their baggage and think I had to, somehow magically, alchemically even, like, change it for them and give it back to them in a bright, happy, energy. And that's not my job to do that. It's not my job to give people the fish. It's my job to teach them how to fish if they want to learn how. Okay. So purple color around my green color picture behind you. Interesting. I don't see it on my computer screen. I wonder who or what you're aware of back there. Who else has joined this call that may have a purple light? So comments, questions, feedback? Has this been useful, this conversation, for you all? I think if you just, we'll send you when I do the replay, we'll send an email with, like, the key bullet points of the tools we talked about, but asking questions, using the clearing statements, who does this belong to? We'll give you some examples of the questions. There's so many good questions. What else can I choose here? What else is possible? Even the basics, you hear a lot of Access people saying, how does it get any better than this? And what else is possible? Use those questions all the time, because when it's crap, you're asking for something different to show up, something greater. What else is possible here? How's it getting better than this? I can't even talk because my throat is scratching from the fires. What else is possible? And then when things are good, like this morning, there was actually overnight, we had clear skies and we had clean air, and I had my windows wide open, and I was like, yes, how does it get even better than this? What else is possible now? Right? And then when smoke came back, it's like, oh, smoke again. What else is possible? That's how you ride all of this, is with questions and moving to that space of allowance. And whatever it is in the way of your allowance, you destroy and uncreate it. Okay? And that's sending back what's not yours, and pock and potting the rest, and everywhere you think it's your job to heal them, and anywhere you're making it all significant, right? At the end here, I'm going to do an expand out exercise, because it's my favorite. And, when you get out, expand it out into that infinite space, It's like, how much of any of this is relevant? How much of it does it even matter? This one moment in time that's like a speck of sand in like a vast universe and universes of lifetimes and realities that we all, as an infinite being, are aware of, right? We give a lot of meaning and significance to what's happening in this reality right now, but in the grand scheme of things, what if none of it is significant? So, cool. I'm glad you guys have enjoyed this conversation. Let's do an expand out, just to get us even more spacious and in allowance. So you can close your eyes if you want. I like to close my eyes when I do it. And I'm going to do it kind of slow and in a meditative way, but you could also do expand out instantaneously and get infinite. But I would invite you to first just take a moment to check in. Just kind of notice how your body's doing. Notice if your mind is doing stuff. Notice if you have an awareness of any emotions that might be present, any feelings in your body. Just make a note of those. And then let's all expand our energy field out. It's not an effortful thing. You just ask and intend your energy to get bigger, to expand out past your body, and to fill the room that you're in. And then expand out even bigger until you're as big as the whole building you're in. Or if you're outside, as big as the whole building next to you or near you. And now let yourself expand out in all directions, including down into the earth and up into the sky, until you're as big as the entire street or block you're on. And then get as big as the entire city or town you're in. And then keep expanding out in all directions, including down into the earth and up into the sky, until you're as big as the entire state or country that you're in. Let's get as big as the whole country. And then keep expanding out in all directions until you're as big as the entire planet, all the way down to the core. And then allow yourself to radiate out even beyond the earth, out into our solar system, past the sun and all the other planets, out into the galaxy, expanding out and through all of the hundreds, thousands, millions, billions, and even trillions of other galaxies, all the way out into the infinite reaches of the universe, which are ever expanding. Now, this is the space of you as an infinite being. Notice what it's like out here. Notice what your body is like. Your mind, those emotions. What happens to all the thoughts and feelings? Does any of it mean anything? And then notice what's going on planet Earth right now. Everything we've talked about, all the trauma, drama, upset. How does it seem from this space? Do you still find yourself aligning and agreeing or resisting and reacting? Or is there more space available? And with that space, does there also come more allowance? More allowance for yourself and whatever you've been choosing. More allowance for others and what they've been choosing. It might be easier to access that allowance from this space. So as you also start to bring your attention back to this call, this moment, and our time coming to an end, see if you can maintain that expanded space of awareness while simultaneously becoming aware of the room you're in, noticing your 5 senses. And whenever you feel ready, you can slowly and gently open your eyes while still staying expanded out. Can you hold those simultaneously? And then what is that like? All right, you guys, thank you so much for coming on the call today. We will send out the replays within about a day or so. I have a packed day, back to back all day today. So I may not get to it until later tonight. If you guys would like to find out more about Access, the bars in particular, which I didn't talk about, but I love all the hands-on stuff of Access. I wanted to give Ruth a moment to pipe in because she is here locally in the Bay Area and she's actually going to be doing a free event this weekend. Ruth, do you want to unmute yourself for a second and just share with the folks?
Yes, thank you, Adriana. Yes, we're organizing a free clinic on Saturday, this coming Saturday. Let's see, the date is the 12th. It's going to be in San Anselmo in Marin County. If you're in the area, you're welcome to come and receive a free session. We're going to be there from 9:30 to 5:30 or so. And you can find me also on Facebook and send me an inbox or something. So I give you all the details. And my phone number is 415-419-6355.
And we'll send that in the, we'll send it in the replay also. Ruth can get it to me and we'll add it. We'll add it to the email for, and you may have, those of you that are in other parts of the world, check to see. Access has a whole campaign going on right now for World Suicide Prevention Day. And then next month in October is World Mental Health Day. And so in this time, lots of Access facilitators will be offering bars or other kinds of sessions. And so you may have something local in your area. There's going to be online events. This was my contribution, you know, to the whole thing. So there's a lot going on. We'll see if we can find a link. I think they probably have a landing page in Access for all things mental health and Suicide Awareness Day related. So thank you all from all over the world for joining in today. If you're interested in more about me, I have my website is adrianapopescu.org. I have a podcast that I'm really excited about on alternative perspectives on mental health. That's been really fun to put out. If you guys are interested in the topic, there's lots of resources out there on my website, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Many thanks to you all, and truly what else is possible for all of us to step into our superstar strength. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana.